Well, I do believe we managed to gather all the answers that we were waiting for that very important question. So thank you very much, gentlemen, for joining us and for sharing your thoughts. It was indeed a great pleasure hearing from each one of you. And with that, it's time to gear up for an interesting fireside chat. And for this, I would like to invite Mr. Rajinder Bhatia, President and CEO, Kalyani Group. Now, before we begin, a few words about Mr. Bhatia. In fact, he's currently employed with the 3 billion US dollars Kalyani Group, a leading engineering conglomerate headquartered in Pune, Maharashtra, as the President and CEO, Defense and Aerospace. Now, under him, Kalyani Group has forged partnerships and collaborated with major defense and aerospace OEMs of the world and is today at the forefront of the defense and aerospace landscape in the country. He is a senior member of the CII National Defense Committee, executive member of the SIDM Board and FICCI National Committee on Defense. He is chairman of the board of Analogic Control Systems, CRAS, a joint venture between Rafael and KSSL, BFPEL and Kalyani Strategic Systems Limited. He's also executive director on the board of the BFELBIT Advanced Systems. And to spearhead this fireside chat, we have with us Mr. Rahul Kamath, editor, B2B division, Worldwide Media, Times of India Group. So it's going to be a very interesting fireside chat for all of us to witness. So with that, let the conversation begin.
Hello and welcome to the Fireside Chat with none other than Mr. Rajinder Bhatia, President and CEO, Kalyani Group. Mr. Rajinder Bhatia is currently associated with the USD 3 billion Kalyani Group, a leading engineering conglomerate as a President and CEO, Defense and Aerospace. Under him, Kalyani Group has forged partnership and collaborated with major defense and aerospace OEM of the world and is today in the forefront of defense and aerospace landscape in the country. Welcome, Mr. Rajinder, sir.
Thank you, Rahul. Thanks a lot. It's a pleasure to be invited by you for this fireside chat.
Yeah. So let me begin asking this particular question on, sir, in the last few years, Kalyani Group has formed joint ventures with BAE Systems, Thales, Israel Aerospace Industries, AMG Partners, Belcan, Arsenal Joint Stock Company, to mention a few. Sir, how are these JVs helping the group's defense business achieves growth opportunities that they have outlined for the coming years?
Rahul, we have had a number of joint ventures and number of partnerships, which are strategic partnerships for which we have arrangements with these foreign OEMs. Basically, when you look at addressing certain opportunities in the defense and aerospace sector, you need to take a look at what product and what classification of that product.
Absolutely.
Most of these relationships are based on what we used to call buy and make or buy global category of procurements, where you tie up with a global OEM, you bring the product which is already in service with them, then indigenize that product in the country and then take it forward.
Correct.
Our relationship with all our partners has been excellent. We are very confident that as we go forward, more and more opportunities would be coming in this space. You are also aware that recently, about just before COVID, we had announced receipt of $100 million order in one of our joint ventures.
Right,
this project is going on well. There are a number of other opportunities we have addressed, including a multi-billion-dollar opportunity on CIWS space. We are also working on many other programs with our partners in terms of ammunition, in terms of small arms, in terms of land systems. And all these partnerships are, I would say, a start of a good relationship and also addressing critical opportunities in the defense and aerospace sector in the country.
All right, but these tie-ups or the joint ventures are morely with the international players. How about you finding the domestic players, the tie-ups with the domestic players or the startups to push them and get them more the defense orders?
Rahul, defense business is a very interesting sector. No large player can afford to be operating on its own in this segment.
Correct.
In fact, it is a very tierized structure where you have a lead integrator followed by a tier one who will be sub-assemblies providers, and then you have tier two, which could be component or a small subsystem providers. And we have created a large portfolio of homegrown products in this segment of defense and aerospace. For these, we have large collaborations with many Indian companies. They are in various segments and sectors cutting across country. Just to give you an idea, for our play into the artillery sector, we have almost 450 MSMEs who are partners to us in this. So, of course, we have a large amount of tie-ups. The second thing which has happened is that there are a number of areas where there are startups who are bringing, I would say, cutting edge technology. So we as a group have also been supporting a large number of startups. Some of them are operating in inertial navigation space. Some of them are operating in artificial intelligence space. So these are high-end technologies where we are collaborating with a number of such companies.
So my next question is, sir, do you think that Make in India in the defense production is very crucial and not just an option? And subsequently, what factors can make Indian defense manufacturers more competitive considering our geopolitical position?
Rahul, this is in fact an extremely important question. Honorable Prime Minister had laid down a vision for the country that we should be doubling our GDP from current 2.5 to 2.89 trillion dollars to maybe $5 trillion in the next 4 to 5 years. Now, to get into this journey, one of the key pillars of this growth was going to be the manufacturing sector.
Absolutely.
And if you take a look at the manufacturing sector, if you take a look at auto industry, it has almost hit a plateau. It's also a plateau in many other areas. With the current focus on, mobility and e-mobility, the oil and gas is also losing its charm. So which are the sectors where there is potential for growth? If you take a look at that dispassionately, one of the most important sector where there is enough scope for growth would be defense and aerospace. So this is one sector which can become a strong foundation for India's growth. In fact, we are looking at improving our manufacturing from current 16% to something like 25% of the GDP in the growth from 2.5 trillion to $5 trillion. And if that has to happen, it is imperative that defense and aerospace has to be given that focus and that focus for growth.
Right. But sir, there is one basic challenge in the entire aerospace and defense sector is the procurement process. So how the government is addressing and how has it been improved from how it was earlier and in the few years, how it has changed? Do you see that there is a drastic change?
Rahul, let's take a look back and let's peep into the history a bit.
Okay.
In 2002, the so-called the defense procurement procedure, it used to be known as, was a secret document.
Okay.
It was kept under 3 locks and keys, and anybody issuing out, even putting extracts out of this, was subject to very serious criminal and disciplinary proceedings. From that to come to a position where industry is being consulted for the acquisition process is a great shift.
All right.
So this reflects the openness, this reflects the transparency. Of course, this change is all in the positive direction. The policy framework, I think, has reached a stage where it is pretty much matured. There is a full, I would say, drive to get the Indian industry also into this ecosystem. However, operationalization of these policies do take a bit of time. Okay. I think we are going through that phase right now. So it is no longer a question whether it will happen. Only question maybe is when it will happen. And we are hopeful that it will be earlier than expected.
Okay. But Mr. Bhatia, most of the manufacturers or most of the analysts, defense analysts let's say, analyst says that the current draft defense procurement policy is merely an old wine in a new bottle. So my question is, will it push the ease of doing business in the defense sector, or is it the same repeat things will happen, which is happening for the last so many years?
I think, Rahul, you have to give credit to the fact that there are two perspectives to every situation. You can call the glass half full, or you can call the glass half empty. I would call it more full than empty.
Okay.
I think the process is far more open, far more transparent. There are a number of issues which have been addressed. Number of, there is a real intent to give a, what I would say, level playing field. So I would not really say that it is old wine in a new bottle. I think perhaps it's new wine in a new bottle, but perhaps this new wine requires little more time to mature. And that is all what we need to see.
All right. Okay. That's a great answer. Okay. Sir, in one of the speeches, Honorable Defense Minister Shri Rajnath Singh said that India can become a defense hub if we have a perfect blend of cost and quality. But when I look closely, I see many less experienced players with no strong technical base and manufacturing capabilities is rushing into the field. How are we addressing this this concern? Chances of security lapses are more, chances of cyber attacks are more, but how are we addressing this concern?
Rahul, this concern, I think, would find a solution to itself as we mature as an industry. Right now, it is one big, I would say, ocean where everybody finds that the food is little short. So everybody is rushing for every opportunity. This is not a short-term sprint. Right. This is going to be a marathon. Right. And marathon, if large number of players start, not everybody finishes.
Absolutely.
So we are very hopeful that the process itself will ensure that the players who are non-serious will get left out somewhere down the line.
Right.
Now,
right.
Coming back to your point regarding everybody jumping in, it's not the entry barriers into this business are very, very large. And once, to get through those entry barriers also acts as a seed, which will take out the non-serious players by ensuring. I can give you an example. Any tender which comes up at the RFI stage, which is the information stage, you may have 10 to 20 to 30 people going. But when it comes to bidding, it reduces to 4 to 5. When it comes to actually trying the equipment, you only find 1 or 2 or 3 people coming in.
Okay.
So I think there is a natural process. All the same, your point is very valid. I think there should be far more greater vetting so that national security is not compromised. And I think there is no place for organizations or companies which are anti-national to be in this space.
Absolutely, absolutely. That's absolutely true, because this was the concern. Even I was talking to a few players, so they were, even for the startups, they were saying that we are concerned about the security lapses when it comes to the new players, new entrants, and which is also sometimes hampers our ability to. So that's a good point that you made, sir. So another challenge that I feel, one of the greatest challenge in combating terror is ensuring the safety of the security personnel while dealing with the terrorist in the combat situation. Now, tell us about your defense profile and how competitive is the Kalyani Group. Importantly, what kind of growth opportunities do you foresee in the defense sector?
Rahul, this is a perfect. Let me start by the second part about what we are doing to protect, and then come to talk to you about portfolio. We all believe, we all got moved when we had the situation wherein we lost, large number of people when there was a major attack on a convoy. 40 odd people died, and all this was because there was a lapse. A vehicle loaded with so much of explosives could enter the convoy. There are two parts to the protection. One is what you do is by creating those barriers that this does not happen. And second is to provide a foolproof protection to our soldiers who are actually guarding the frontiers.
Right.
Now we have taken up the second part of this problem to provide foolproof protection to to the soldiers who are operating in these areas. A number of our platforms are already on order. In fact, one of them, the most prominent one, is a vehicle called M4. I would be very happy that you just take a look at it on the web and see some of the videos of this vehicle. This vehicle can stand a side blast of 50 kgs of TNT.
Lovely.
This also affords complete protection to the crew which is inside up to standing level 3. And extremely versatile vehicle. This vehicle has proven itself at 17,000 feet high altitude in the deserts of Barmer and even in the salt pens of Rann of Kutch.
Super.
Now, this is the vehicle which is already on order. We are expecting many more numbers to come. And this vehicle, in fact, can become a real, I would say, the first of the kind to provide this part of protection which our soldiers need.
Right.
Coming to the rest of the portfolio, we have created a large portfolio which is practically dependent upon homegrown technologies. Whatever we are doing, we are ensuring that the technology will remain within the country. We do have a large number of strategic partnerships and joint ventures. But Rahul, please remember, technology denial will always remain an instrument of foreign policy in all our relations.
All
So
right.
if we want to be a strong nation, a $5 trillion economy nation cannot be and not a strong nation. If we want to be a strong nation, we got to have homegrown technologies to take us to that level so that we as a nation can occupy the rightful place in the committee of the nation.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
hence, it is exceedingly important that we grow the technology. All our portfolios based on technology which has been grown in-house.
Absolutely.
See the large number of artillery guns we have produced. See the amount of work which has happened on protected vehicles, on small arms, on ammunition development, on artificial intelligence, on wearables. And most of these products are actually tailor-made to the immediate requirement which the customer may have.
Right, right. I want to ask you this interesting question. When before taking up this huge role, Mr. Baba Kalyani had a conversation with you about, why are we still importing these artillery guns? And I remember, I actually don't remember that context, but you come out and I think you have set up in a few months or few years, you managed to set up that kind of R&D, under you. Research and development plays an important part also in the defense sector. So what was going in your mind that time when Mr. Baba Kalyani came out with such a huge statement that we are still, depending on the import substance? What was in your mind? What was your thought process?
See, Baba Kalyani is a great nationalist and probably is also driven by a lot of internal strength to get self-reliance into the country.
Right.
Probably a bit of it goes from the fact that he studied in a military school in his early years, and probably the love for the armed forces and uniform was ingrained. I am not saying all this because I'm working in that group, but it's a fact that he's a flag bearer for self-reliance in this space in the country. And he has made this very, very clear in almost every statement he has made in any forum in the country. It is with this kind of a focus that we invested a huge amount of money, running into 3-figure crores for setting up an artillery plant. And all this was driven by the single fact that since 86, in a particular category, India was not able to manufacture or acquire a single gun.
Sure.
And here was an opportunity which we could create. I can also assure you that with the kind of efforts, kind of infrastructure, kind of development, R&D, I would say design and engineering, we are confident that we will be one of the leading players in this space in the next few years in the whole world and not only in the country.
Correct.
Today, we have created capacities which are, I would say, the highest in the world. And with the knowledge which we have learned, and this has been taken from all 3 continents, we are very sure that we will be a force to reckon with in the space of artillery in the global markets. We can already see the green shoots in this segment. We are also getting inquiries from large number of people outside our country for our products, and some of them should see the light of the day in the very near future.
So you think that India can be an export hub for the aerospace and defense sector?
I would say that I don't think, I'm sure.
Okay.
There's no way. And this is perhaps one of the questions which I would like to kind of address it, because I'm sure it will be on your mind. You did mention about cost quality right in the beginning.
Right.
Which better country than India to provide the cost and quality?
Absolutely.
I would like to put little, there are myths and there are realities. The reality is that India stands very high in advanced manufacturing. If you take a look at a study which is carried out by, competitiveness of industry, it is a US study and supported by one or two leading, I would say, analysis organizations or analysts. India is rated between second and fourth consistently for last 10 years.
Okay.
That means we are higher than most of the countries in advanced manufacturing.
Right, right.
And the second part is on the, just merely manufacturing will not take you there.
Absolutely.
The second part which you need is the technology focus. And where do we stand in technology focus? I would like you to just study one's report, and I can just give you a few probably extracts out of it. It's a consultancy company called Zinnov, which says that India today supports more than 800 centers for research and development, which are doing R&D on behalf of multinational corporations outside of India.
That's super.
And it employs nearly 400,000 bright Indian engineers. So if this is the kind of reservoir of pool of talent which is available in the country, I don't think there is any problem. The need is that whatever research and development is doing, we should be able to use it for our own country. It should be our intellectual property, which is what we should create and which can then become the real foundation for a vibrant defense industrial base in the country.
That's superb. That's a very nice answer, sir. In fact, it will encourage others also, the new talent also, if they watch your interview. Now, lastly, I want to ask you this particular question about your joint venture with Rafael Defense Systems. So it's been more than 3 years, and the JV is as solid as Rock of Gibraltar. So what can we expect more from this JV for the Indian defense industry in the coming years?
See, it is very interesting that some of the most high technology products are being manufactured in this JV. We are looking at CRAS becoming a viable missile house in the country. We also want it to become an export house. But really what we want to do in this is to bring high technology products in the country.
Correct.
We are working on that. Our partners are very supportive. You saw that major programs are being done. We also addressing major programs like 8x8, APC, FICV, upgrades of BMPs, and many other segments, including the future-looking missiles and other subsystems. We are very hopeful. We have a lot of hopes on this joint venture, and rightly so with many others. This is not the only one, with many others. And I think we are looking with a great amount of expectation from this joint venture.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Bhatia, for joining us on this fireside chat at the ET ADS 2021. Anything that you would like to say on this particular industry?
All I would like to say, Rahul, that you have actually summed it up very well, that we need serious players and we don't need people who are fly-by-night operators. This is a segment where we need to keep the national interest at paramount. We need to ensure that there is no, I would say, not the slightest amount of problem to national security, because we have people who should not be in this domain. So that kind of filtering should carry on. But I am also sure that the Indian industry will prove its mettle in the years to come. It's only the beginning of a long marathon, but we will be running it well, and the whole Indian industry will prove its mettle going forward into the future.
All right. Thank you so much for joining us. That's a very nice interview, and I hope our audience will also enjoy when it will go on live. Thank you so much, sir.